My name is Marion O'Brien, M-A-R-I-O-N-O-B-R-I-E-N. I was asked to be brief, and I will be. Governor Cuomo, I thought that when I voted for you that you were a humane person, and I have to think otherwise now because I feel that you are sacrificing the people of our state in this fracking pursuit, and I think it's criminal, and I've lost faith in you. I hope that you do change your mind, and I can regain my faith in you. I think we should take a lesson from history and recall when New York City had years ago, many years ago, had good water in the island, and as they eventually polluted it. As we all know, we in upstate New York then had to supply New York City with water. Now, what happens if our water should become polluted and the New York City water should become polluted? What will happen then to the people? Water is essential. We cannot live without water. And I think to pursue fracking is very, very dangerous, and it's not worth worth money from gas to do this. And I please, Governor Cuomo, please reconsider and consider the people that you serve. Thank you.
Betty Hamilton. May I ask that you stay about 5 inches from the microphone and don't move to one side or the other, because we've lost a little sound when people do that.
Okay, I'm Betty Hamilton, spelled B-E-T-T-Y-H-A-M-I-L-T-O-N. And I have a house in the Catskill watersheds. It's in Bovina Township, Delaware County. And also an apartment in New York City. In the city, I drink our tap water, which comes from the Catskills water reservoirs. So naturally, I am very concerned about gas drilling in New York State. The chemicals used for hydrofracking are very toxic and will spread underground to pollute our wonderful water supply. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Kathy McNulty.
Hi, I am Kathy McNulty, M-C-N-U-L-T-Y, and I want to say that I am very angry that I have to work this hard to get my government to listen to me. I've been working really hard, especially since this SGEIS is something like a suggestion. It's a promise of regulations. It's not even the real deal. I have a small sheep farm in Sydney, New York, and I want to say right now that my water, my air, and my land is not for sale. There are no water buffaloes for sheep, for goats, for horses, for chickens, or for vegetables, and I will have 100% loss if my water goes. I have a message for New York City and their representatives. We're up here, we are guarding your water. We are guarding your grass-fed beef. We are guarding your organic milk, your sprouts, your Nettle Metal goat cheese, your Lilac Hill Farm socks, which is my product, and your Omegang beer. And we need a little help here. We need a lot of help. Where are you going to get your food from? France, Norway, where they've banned hydrofracking? Because the Catskills, the beautiful Catskills, are your view shed as well as your watershed and your food shed. As a wonderful representative from the Brooklyn Food Co-op, who will not buy our food if it is spoiled any longer, said at a marketing conference last spring, I have a quote, Martin Luther King, I have a dream that the necessities of the many are not sacrificed for the luxuries of a few. I want to remind you who the speakers are on the anti-fracking circuit. They are farmers and homeowners from Pennsylvania who have been fracked, who had leases, and they came here to warn us. We really need to listen. I want to say, wake up, New York, before labels like Pennsylvania organic is not an oxymoron. I just passed a sign on the way here in Sydney, New York, that said, drill a well and bring a soldier home, and it had a nice green peace sign. This is really airing our country's dirty linen in public. Our children are not to be sacrificed. Our air, our land, and our water is not to be sacrificed for this corporation. It's like inviting a wild animal into your home. They don't want to play nice. They don't want to share. And they don't care how they leave your house when they leave.
Thank you. Dawn Dickerson.
Hi, my name is Dawn Dickerson, D-A-W-N, D-I-C. Thank you. My name is Dawn Dickerson, D-A-W-N, D-I-C-K-E-R-S-O-N, and I live in West Delhi, Delaware County, New York. I provide and manage the Healing Light Sanctuary, and I provide housing, food, and water for... Sorry, I provide housing, food, and water for animals and people in West Delhi. And right now, where I reside is the first time I've been able to drink the water in the last several years. It is a precious, water is very precious. And when you don't have it and you're not able to drink it, it's very difficult to obtain it and buy it and move it. And I'm not able to move thousands of gallons of water for my animals if it were to get contaminated. We live in the watershed that provides drinking water for millions of people, and under the ground are many rivers that move our water, and no one really knows where they go. We must protect our water, above ground and underground. Currently, our communities are not able to handle a disaster from hydrofracking. And to set up a relief for hydrofracking, who is going to be the ones to pay this bill, which could be very large, even before they start? Each and every one of us has a responsibility not to harm each other and other living souls, and not to harm our planet Earth. We need to focus on alternate energy sources and safe ways of utilizing them. We are blessed with intelligence, but only if we use it in positive ways. Please look into your hearts and soul, and you will know if this process to access natural gas is a positive or negative benefit for all concerned. New York State needs to be a powerful leader and say no to hydrofracking. Thank you.
Joel Tyner.
My name is Joel Tyner, Joeltyner. I'm actually a Dutchess County legislator from a couple hours east of here, starting my 5th term representing Rhinebeck and Clinton. I'm 48 years old. About 40 years ago, in the early 70s, we're dealing with oil troubles, and I thought that by now we would not be jeopardizing our environment and the water we need to drink and the air we breathe with drilling for gas and oil. I thought by now these things would be taken care of, but obviously I'm wrong. Wanted to thank everybody, the 10 different groups for putting this together, and everybody for being here today. 4 years ago, I started a petition against fracking. 1,100 people have signed on to that across the state. It's petitiononline.com/no drill with a capital N and a capital D. Everything else is lowercase. A couple numbers. I like to share fact tidbits and nuggets. I've been taking notes on what everybody's been saying. I learned a lot today. I'm not sure if anybody else brought up these two numbers, 1,000 and 270. ProPublica has documented 1,000 different cases of wells being contaminated across the country from fracking. 1,000 different cases of drinking wells being contaminated from fracking across the country. On Democracy Now!, Walter Hang of Toxic Targeting was on Democracy Now!, I think it was November 10th of 2009, talking about 270 different cases in New York State alone of fires, explosions, and wells being damaged from natural gas drilling over the last 30 years. So I think a number of us have been on this issue for a while, and we've heard over and over again that, well, you know, natural gas drilling, it's been in New York State for decades. Right, everything's fine. I know that there's some member of the media here. I'm asking the media to really try to put some of that stuff on the front page, because frankly, if the media had been putting that stuff on the front page a couple years ago, we wouldn't be here now. The New York Times has not put it on the front page about... The New York Times has not put it on the front page about ProPublica documenting 1,000 different cases of wells being contaminated by fracking. That hasn't hit the front page of any newspaper as far as I know. The 270 different cases of fires and explosions and wells being damaged from natural gas drilling in New York State as it is right now, that hasn't hit any newspaper as far as I know. I'm asking, begging, and pleading, and yes, I'm demanding that the media here start putting this on the front page of the paper. Thank you to the folks that are here from the media, but that stuff needs to be on the front page. We don't need to do this to revitalize our economy. Germany has less sunlight than we do. They have solar panels all over the place. Dr. Richard Perez from SUNY Albany has pointed out that with less than 1% of the state covered with solar panels, that could generate all the electrical power needs for the entire state of New York. 20,000 jobs, 22,000 jobs in the New York Solar Jobs Act, 10 times more jobs moving towards zero waste with recycling and composting compared to burning and burying and incineration and landfilling. And I tell you what, I do a radio show, Alliance for Quality Education reminded me this morning, 30,000 jobs we've lost from the budget cuts and $2.7 billion given away to the rich. So if you want to talk about jobs, there's other things we can do than jeopardizing our drinking water.
Thank you. Nick Alba, and thank you so much for changing with Betty Hunt.
Having separately and dutifully submitted comments that conform with the requirements of this procedure respecting the draft SGEIS or Goose, I've assumed the dispensation to make a brief statement outside the box. Along with a few others today, it'll probably end up in DEC's discard pile, but at least one bureaucrat will have to read them and make that judgment. Fracking previews a world of defeated human beings, herded into unsustainable megacities and the peripheral slums, surrounded by poisonous industrial landscapes and the disease of giant food factories. That vision is absolutely guaranteed as long as we tolerate a system of immoral corporatism yoked to corrupt politics.
Robert D.
Robert D., DEE. Massive change is entirely dependent upon individual action. It's nice to see so much passionate individual action here today. That was Gandhi. Make no mistake about this. This is about power. We can bring all kinds of paperwork showing the detrimental effects of fracking. But until you address the power that's controlling this and the power that's mandating this, you won't make a change. Governor Cuomo, what do you need? How much individual action do you need to see before it affects your position politically, before you start to address this issue, and before you start to address our demands and make some changes? Now, it's possible there are other avenues of energy. I am net zero. Net zero means that I'm not using any grid. I'm not on the grid, and I'm putting more energy back into the grid than I'm consuming. Solar panels, and I'm not a solar dealer, solar panels, the amount of energy used in a solar panel to make the solar panel and the materials is consumed in 1 year. That is, after 1 year, any energy and products used to make that panel are recovered in the energy that the panel returns to the environment. A solar panel's life is 29 years. That means that for the next 29 years, you get free, clean energy. You're not affecting your children's water, your animals' water, the land that we all live in. If you change this environment, you're changing this environment for millenniums. Is your career worth that? Is the political career worth that you're jeopardizing that our lives, our children's lives, and the lives of people who haven't even been born yet, to bring in cancer, and to bring in other detrimental effects to this environment for your careers? And that's what this is about. This is about power. We're not missing that. We're not missing that you're benefiting from this politically. And that's why you've made this change to promote fracking. So you should seriously think about that, because what I'd like to know from you is, what degree, how many people do you need to hear from before you change your political stance on this? Because once you frack, there's no guarantee that that land and that water won't be polluted. And that's what you're giving us. You're giving a polluted land. Everybody has an eraser on their pencil. That means we all make mistakes. And the mistakes we're making are going to affect millenniums of people. Thank you for your time.
Van Morrow, M-O-R-R-O-W. Oh, thank you. I'm speaking today as a local private citizen, and I live in Livingston Manor, New York, and I live less than a mile from a gentleman who has leased 186 acres to be fracked whenever, hopefully it won't, but whenever it may happen. I live less than a mile from all of that. And I live at a slightly higher elevation than his property, and I am personally worried about the pull of water on my well and the abundance of safe, clean drinking water that I've enjoyed in my 19 years in my home. I cannot say anything better right now than the previous 27 speakers, and I will note that I haven't heard any pro speakers today in this nicely publicized meeting. I wonder if that means anything. But I need to say that, at least in my community, very prone to flooding in Livingston Manor, New York, and well documented, that every time it rains heavily or there's a big snow melt, people start flipping out because we can't handle another flood and the water running down the hill toward the town. Now, if fracking comes to our area and there's even a single accident, I know living where I do, we are just simply unable to handle any kind of disaster that's going to come from this. This is with all the promises and the comments and the assurances that things will be done more safely in the future. We can't handle a heavy rain. How are we going to handle this? I will note that the gentleman who has leased his acreage, I think I see him once or twice a year. I believe he lives elsewhere, and he will not be living, thank you, he will not be living very close to the action there. Like everyone else here, this morning I had breakfast at home, and while I didn't wash the dishes were washed, and the shower was run, and we just take it for granted that you turn on the faucet and there is clean water. I cannot imagine the horror of those people whose water has been ruined by these outside forces, and they are screaming for help, and it doesn't come, and any little bit that comes does not restore their way of life. So I love the Catskills, and I love New York just like everyone else. I hope fracking doesn't come here or anywhere. It's awful. Thank you.
I brought my own air. Thank you. My name is Diane Nixon. That's DIANENIXON. I live and work with my partner Robert Ashley in Meredith. We're newcomers. We've been here for 23 years. I want to share with you today some of the information researched as to why high-volume hydraulic fracturing must be banned in New York State and elsewhere. It has to do with water. The so-called blue planet that we share is because there's so much water. But 97.5% of this is salty, 1% of this is brackish, 2.5% is fresh, but 2/3 is frozen currently. The rest is liquid surface water and groundwater. Water is a commodity. It is being referred to as blue gold. It is our most precious resource. They're not making any more of it. Water is vital to life. Humans, plants, and animals are made up mostly of water. We would die if it weren't for water. The average American uses between 150 to 250 gallons per day. There are all other uses too: agriculture, manufacturing, firefighting, hospitals, restaurants, hotels, and on and on. The amount of water needed to run a local farm for the growing of other crops that we need to feed ourselves is tremendous. Think on this one. A fast food meal of hamburger, fries, and soft drink consumes 1,400 gallons for its final production. One meal. I thought that was me. Bless you. Okay. McDonald's doesn't even tally, like it used to, the number of burgers sold. Last time I remember it was 15 billion. Billion! And that was years ago. Due to population growth and pollution, our precious resource is getting scarcer. Less than 1% of the world's water is accessible for human use. 1/6 of the world's population does not have access to fresh water. We must remember how important it is to guard and care for our waters, for ourselves, our families, our environment, for the future. And then question why over 5 million gallons of water per frac is permanently removed from the hydrologic cycle. Perhaps the DEC can explain to us why the oil and gas industries are exempt from the following acts: Comprehensive Environmental Response Compensation and Liability Act, Resource Conservation and Recovery Act,
Safe Drinking Water Act, Clean Water Act, Clean Air Act, the National Environmental Policy Act, the Toxic Release Inventory under the Emergency Planning and Community Right to Know Act. I'm up? Really? Oh. Go and, if you can, get Blue Gold, World Water Wars, the fight to stop corporate theft of the world's water. Available through Netflix, Amazon, and Green Earth in Oneonta. Thank you for allowing me to speak.
Ken Jaffe. There's going to be a little change on my slide at number 36 is going to be replaced by Laura Cobley, whereas it's going to include number 37.
Good afternoon, Supervisor Kapoya and Governor Cuomo. I'm Ken Jaffe from Meredith, New York. I'm a physician and beef farmer. This week, there was a seismic event concerning hydrofracking. I'm not talking about the earthquakes in Ohio. This week, the head of the Environmental Health Agency of the Federal Centers for Disease Control sent a letter to the Associated Press stating that he cannot say that fracking is safe. Dr. Christopher Portier knows more about the science of health effects of fracking than anybody in the U.S. His staff is working with the EPA on human health impacts in Wyoming, where they concluded that fracking contaminated the drinking water aquifer. His letter on human health impacts said, quote, site-by-site work is turning up data of concern, unquote. If his letter this week seems a little bit dry and scientific, in September he was more direct when he said, quote, in some communities it has been a disaster. The scientific ground on which regulators must stand has shifted. As Dr. Portier made clear, the DEC cannot say that fracking as planned is safe for people. They simply do not have the evidence or the science to claim safety. With the evidence that has accrued over the past year, we now know that there are serious health risks. And let's be clear, when we talk about the risk of exposure to even low levels of the powerful cancer-causing agent benzene, which was found at 50 times acceptable levels in the aquifer in Wyoming, we're talking about the risk of cancer in people. The draft SGEIS clearly acknowledges that high-volume hydraulic fracturing is a risk to public health in New York. This is implicit in the decision to ban fracking in primary aquifers, protecting 350,000 New Yorkers. But 850,000 people will be without equal protection. The DEC is proposing, without scientific basis, an unproven technique, triple casing, as a solution to the established problem of aquifer contamination. There is no research to prove the claim that triple casing can prevent such contamination. The only word is the word of the gas industry, which said their prior casing techniques were foolproof. Dr. Portier recommends that, quote, studies should include all the ways people are exposed, such as through air, water, soil, plants, and animals. In addition to groundwater, exposure pathways can include air at well sites, impoundment sites, and compressor stations, both locally and regionally. Livestock on farmed lands consuming potentially impacted surface waters, and recreational fish from potentially impacted surface waters. Section 9233 of the SGEIS proposes studying, quote, actual experiences and impacts associated with permit issuance, unquote, in areas with 850,000 people drink sole source aquifers. We now know that the actual experience and impacts which the DE plans to observe includes exposing 850,000 people to the risks of agents like benzene. Given what we know now, the SGEIS is proposing the largest non-consensual, unethical, and illegal human experiment in history. It is unlikely that the DEC wants that legacy. The scientific ground has shifted. No longer can we ask opponents of fracking to prove that it's not safe. Given our current knowledge, we now must say to the proponents that before fracking, we need to do real research to find out if it is safe. The research does not yet exist. So the SGEIS should go into the drawer or into the trash until the research on human impacts recommended by Dr. Portier is completed.